It was a quiet afternoon at a popular bookstore in Los Angeles, and Keanu Reeves was browsing the aisles, lost in the pages of a novel. He was used to being recognized, but he didn't mind the occasional glance or whisper. It didn't bother him. He was just like anyone else, searching for a good book to read, enjoying a moment of peace away from the chaos of fame. As he wandered through the rows, a group of teenagers walked past, laughing and talking loudly. They were no strangers to making noise, but Keanu quickly realized that the chatter wasn't just harmless. One of the teens, a boy around 16, was making crude comments about him. "Look at that," the teenager said, loud enough for Keanu to hear. "It's Keanu Reeves. Probably thinks he's too good for a regular bookstore. What a joke. He's just an actor trying to stay relevant." The group snickered, and the boy continued, "Honestly, he's nothing special. Probably just some old guy still trying to look cool." Keanu stopped for a moment, hearing the words. He wasn't one to engage in conflict or retaliate, but something about the boy's tone, the condescending attitude, stirred a quiet sense of injustice in him. He had faced ridicule and mockery before, but he wasn't about to let anyone belittle him or anyone else in this space. Keanu walked calmly toward the group, who had gathered in front of a display table, oblivious to his approach. He wasn't angry, but there was a quiet determination in his steps. He stood behind the group for a moment, waiting for them to notice him. When they finally did, the group fell silent, their laughter fading into uneasy glances. The teenager who had spoken earlier looked at Keanu, an arrogant smile still on his face. "Oh, it's you," he said with a hint of mockery. "What's up, Keanu? I was just saying how weird it is that you're here. Shouldn't you be doing something more important than hanging out in a bookstore?" Keanu stood tall, his voice calm but firm. "It's not your place to make fun of anyone for where they are or what they're doing," he said quietly. "A person's worth isn't defined by where they shop, what they wear, or how they're perceived by others." The teenager scoffed, clearly expecting Keanu to retreat or apologize. "Oh, so now you're going to lecture me? What are you, my dad? Who cares about all that deep stuff? This is just a bookstore, man. What do you think you're teaching here?" Keanu smiled slightly, but his voice didn't lose its edge. "What I'm teaching you," he said, "is that respect isn't something you just give to people you think deserve it. Respect is something you give to everyone, regardless of who they are, where they come from, or what they've done. It's easy to disrespect someone when you don't know their story. But the truth is, everyone deserves kindness." The boy's face tightened, clearly not expecting this kind of response. His arrogance faltered for a moment, and the group around him shifted uncomfortably. They had been expecting Keanu to back down, to play along with the joke, but instead, he had confronted them with a calm but undeniable truth. "Look," Keanu continued, his voice steady, "it's easy to tear people down to make yourself feel better. But true strength comes from building others up, not putting them down. If you want to make a real impact on the world, you need to learn to respect everyone, no exceptions." The teenager, now speechless, looked at Keanu, unsure of how to respond. The group around him, once laughing, now stood in silence, their earlier confidence crumbling under the weight of Keanu's words. Keanu's gaze softened, and he took a step closer. "You don't have to like me, but you also don't have to mock me. And more importantly, you don't have the right to disrespect anyone just because you think you're superior. None of us are." For a moment, the teenager stood there, his defiant expression replaced by something more vulnerable, uncertainty. He had come to the bookstore with a group of friends, eager to show off, to make fun of someone who, in his mind, was an easy target. But now, standing in front of Keanu, he realized just how shallow that thinking was. I didn't mean it like that," the teenager muttered, his earlier bravado slipping away. "I was just, I don't know, trying to be funny." Keanu nodded, his tone softer now. "I understand," he said. We all say things we don't mean sometimes. But the difference is, once you understand that you're wrong, you have the chance to do better. You can choose to be kind, to lift people up instead of putting them down. The group of teens, now quiet, exchanged glances. The atmosphere had shifted, and they all seemed to sense that Keanu wasn't trying to start a confrontation, he was simply trying to make them see the truth of what they were doing. The teenager, now genuinely reflecting on his actions, nodded. "Yeah, I get it," he said quietly. "I'm sorry for what I said." Keanu smiled, offering a nod of acknowledgement. "It's all right," he replied. "Just remember that kindness goes a long way. Treat people with respect, and the world will be a much better place for it." As Keanu turned to leave, the group of teens stood in silence, processing the exchange. The teenager who had mocked him, once filled with arrogance, now looked down at the floor, his earlier confidence completely gone. He had expected Keanu to react with anger, to shout back or to retreat, but instead, Keanu had shown him a lesson in humility, one that would stay with him long after the encounter. As Keanu walked out of the bookstore, he left behind a group of teens who had learned something far more valuable than any joke or insult could ever teach them. They had learned that strength comes from kindness, that respect is something earned through action, not by tearing others down. The teenager who had once mocked Keanu looked up at his friends, his face no longer filled with the bravado he had worn earlier. "You know," he said quietly, "maybe Keanu's right. Maybe I need to start thinking before I say things like that." If you want to hear more stories about how kindness and strength can change everything, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications.